The alarms screamed through the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Thys gripped the edge of her viewing screen as another orbital defense station exploded into silent fire above her homeworld. The Kelsar system was dying, and she could only watch from the Council headquarters 3 systems away. "How many stations remain?" Council Prime Vothar asked. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep stress among his species. 12, Thys whispered. "We had 47 yesterday." The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the nightmare in detail. The Vorathi swarm moved like a dark cloud through space. Hundreds of ships working as one mind. They consumed everything in their path. Metal, fuel, organic matter. Nothing stopped them. Nothing slowed them. "The evacuation transports?" another council member asked. "Running at full capacity," the military coordinator reported. "But we cannot save everyone. Not enough time. Not enough ships." Thys felt her chest tighten. 7 billion Kelsar lived on the homeworld. Even with every available transport, they might save 2 billion. Maybe 3 if they were lucky. The rest would face the Vorathi when they reached the surface. "Has humanity responded?" Vothar asked. All eyes turned to the communications officer. The young Pelthian male checked his console 3 times before answering. "Yes, Council Prime. They sent a message 4 hours ago. They are coming." Relief flooded through the chamber. Humanity, the newest members of the Galactic Council, but already the most respected. In the 5 years since first contact, humans had proven themselves again and again. They were clever. They were brave. They never abandoned their allies. "When will their fleet arrive?" Thys asked. Hope crept into her voice for the first time in days. "That is the confusing part, Ambassador," the communications officer said. "They did not specify fleet size or composition, only that they received our distress call and were responding immediately." "Surely they understand the scale of the threat?" another member asked. "We sent them all the data. The Vorathi numbers. Their attack patterns. Everything. They acknowledged all information," the officer confirmed. The response came directly from Earth's Defense Command, signed by Admiral Chen himself. Thys allowed herself to breathe. Admiral Chen was known throughout the galaxy, a tactical genius who had helped the Torgath Empire stop a pirate invasion 2 years ago. If Chen was personally involved, humanity was taking this seriously. "How long until they arrive?" Vothar asked. "Based on human hyperspace speeds, approximately 40 minutes. 40 minutes. Thys looked at the display again. Another defense station died as she watched. 40 minutes felt like forever. 40 minutes. The council chamber fell into tense silence. They watched the Vorathi advance. They watched Kelsar defenders fight and die. The small defense fleet her people had was nothing against the swarm. Every ship they destroyed, the Vorathi consumed 2 more stations. Every tactic they tried, the Vorathi adapted within minutes. "Hyperspace signatures detected," the sensor officer suddenly announced. "One contact emerging at the system edge." "One?" Vothar leaned forward. "Are more following?" "Scanning." "No, Council Prime. Just one ship." The holographic display shifted to show the new arrival. A human vessel materialized from hyperspace exactly at the Kelsar system boundary. The ship was small, by military standards. A frigate, maybe destroyer class. Certainly nothing like the massive carriers or battleships humanity was known to possess. Thys felt her hope crumble. One ship. They sent one ship. "There must be more coming," someone said. "This must be the advanced scout." "Negative," the sensor officer reported. "I am reading no additional hyperspace distortions. No fleet signatures. Just the one vessel. Hailing frequencies from the human ship," the communications officer announced. "Put it through," Vothar ordered. The speakers crackled. Then a calm male voice filled the chamber. He spoke in perfect galactic common, though with the slight accent that marked human speakers. "Galactic Council. This is Captain Jin Min Ho of the human vessel Morning Dawn. I have received your distress call, and am here to assist with the Vorathi situation. Vothar stared at the display. Captain Jin, we are grateful for your response. However, we were expecting a larger force. The Vorathi swarm consists of over 300 ships. Our defense fleet of 60 vessels has been reduced to 18 in less than 3 days. A pause. Then Minho spoke again, his voice unchanged. I understand the situation, Council Prime. I have reviewed all data you transmitted. I am prepared to address the threat. You misunderstand, This said, stepping closer to the communications console. This is not a small raid or border skirmish. This is an extinction event. The Vorathi will not stop until they have consumed everything in this system. I understand perfectly, Ambassador This, Minho replied. I have studied Vorathi behavior extensively. I know what they are capable of. Then why did humanity send only one ship? The words burst from This before she could stop them. Do you not have fleets? Do you not have weapons? We are your allies. We supported Earth's admission to the Council. We have trade agreements, cultural exchanges. My daughter studied on Earth for 2 years. And when we face annihilation, you send one frigate? Silence stretched across the communication channel. This immediately regretted her outburst. But fear and desperation had taken control. When Minho spoke again, his voice remained calm. Unnaturally calm. This thought. Ambassador, I assure you that humanity takes this threat very seriously. I am here to help. But I need to work without interruption. Please transmit all recent tactical data to my ship. Everything from the last 72 hours. Vorathi movement patterns. Attack formations. Response times to different defensive strategies. All of it. What good will one ship do? Another council member demanded. Please trust me, Minho said simply. And please continue your evacuation efforts. Time is important. The communication ended. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Voices overlapped as members shouted questions, accusations, theories. This watched the display in numb silence. The morning dawn was moving now, taking up a position far from the Vorathi swarm. The human ship did nothing. It just floated there, in space. Scanning. Always scanning. Perhaps more ships are coming, Vothar said quietly. Perhaps this Captain Jin is just the first. But This knew better. She had worked with humans before. She understood how carefully they chose their words. Minho had not said reinforcements were coming. He had not promised a fleet. He had only promised that he was here to help. One man. One ship. Against a swarm that had destroyed civilizations. This looked at her homeworld on the display. The Vorathi were 6 hours away from entering orbital space. By this time tomorrow, the invasion of the surface would begin. Continue the evacuation, she ordered her people. Save as many as we can. Save as many as we can. Save as many as we can. Because clearly, Earth had decided they were not worth saving. Commander Vec watched the human ship through his tactical display and felt only frustration. 4 hours had passed since the morning dawn arrived. 4 hours of watching it do nothing. Status? He asked his sensor officer. The human vessel remains at coordinates 4, 4, 7, 9, 9, 2, 1, 0, 3. Still no weapons active. Still just scanning. Vec slammed his hand against his command chair. His defense fleet was down to 12 ships now. 12 against 283 Vorathi vessels. And the humans sent one frigate that did nothing but float in space and look at sensor readings. Sir, we are receiving another data request from Captain Jin, the communications officer reported. Another one? What does he want now? Detailed records of Vorathi's salvage behavior. Specifically, how they process destroyed ships and stations. Vec made a sound of disgust. Send him the files. Maybe while he studies, we can die with proper documentation. The officer transmitted the data. Vec turned back to his tactical display. 3 more defense ships had formed up with his command vessel. They were planning one final attack run, one last attempt to slow the swarm before the evacuation transports finished loading. It was suicide. Everyone knew it, but it would buy time. Every minute counted now. "Commander, the human is hailing us." Vec considered ignoring it. What could the human possibly say that would help? But discipline overrode emotion. Put him through. "Commander Vec, this is Captain Jin. I need you to hold your attack." "Excuse me? Do not engage the Vorathi directly." "Not yet. I need more time." Trass. Vec felt anger rise in his chest. More time? Time for what? To watch? To collect data? My people are dying. My homeworld will be invaded in 3 hours. "I understand your frustration," Jin said. And his voice still had that maddening calm. "But I need you to trust me. Keep your ships back. Continue defensive positions around the evacuation routes only." "Why should I listen to you? What is your plan?" "I will explain when I am ready. For now, please hold position." The communication ended again. Vec roared and kicked his console. His crew looked at him with sympathy. They all felt the same rage. Across the system, in a civilian observation post, scientist Thera reviewed the strange readings coming from the human ship. The morning dawn was broadcasting dozens of tiny objects, microscopic, her sensors indicated, spreading them throughout the system in a pattern she could not understand. She enhanced the scan. The objects were drones. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, each one barely larger than a grain of sand. They were settling into positions around asteroids, along ice rings, near gas clouds. What was the human doing? Thera sent a message to the council, reporting her findings. Maybe someone there would understand. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Thys read Thera's report and felt more confused than before. Microscopic drones. Sensor networks. The human was building something. But what? "Ambassador, Captain Jin is requesting something else," the communications officer said. He sounded tired. They all were. "What now?" Thys asked. "He wants precise calculations of gravitational forces throughout the system, specifically how asteroids interact with the planetary bodies and the gas giant." "Why does he need that?" He did not say. Thys authorized the transmission. What else could she do? At least the human was working on something, even if none of them understood what. 2 more hours passed. The Vorathi entered high orbital space above the Kelsar homeworld. The remaining defense ships were forced to retreat. They could not stop the swarm. They could only watch as the first Vorathi landing craft began their descent toward the surface. Thys watched it happen from the council chamber and felt tears come. Her people, her home, the cities she grew up in would be consumed by mourning. "Ambassador, Captain Jin is moving," the sensor officer announced. Thys looked up. On the display, the morning dawn had finally left its position. The small human ship accelerated toward the Vorathi swarm. "What is he doing?" Vothar asked. "Unknown. He is approaching the swarm at attack speed." Hope sparked in Thys' chest. Maybe the human had powerful weapons. Maybe this small ship carried something incredible that would turn the battle. The morning dawn entered weapons range. The Vorathi swarm reacted instantly. 50 ships broke from the main group and moved to intercept. Jin fired. His weapons hit 3 Vorathi ships, destroying them quickly. The human vessel's shields absorbed return fire easily. But then Jin turned. He did not press the attack. Instead, he accelerated away from the swarm, flying at maximum speed back toward the outer system. "He is running?" someone said. In disbelief. "No," Thys said quietly, watching the display with sudden focus. "He is leading them." She was right. The 50 Vorathi ships pursued. Then another 50 joined them. Then more. The swarm's collective intelligence had decided this single human ship was a threat. Or, perhaps, an insult. The entire Vorathi force began to shift its focus from the planet to the fleeing frigate. "What is he doing?" Vothar asked again. Commander Vek watched from his ship as the human led the Vorathi on a chase through the system. Jin moved with purpose. Every turn was precise. Every course change calculated. He was not running randomly. He was going somewhere specific. The morning dawn dove into the asteroid field. The Vorathi followed. Jin wove between the massive rocks with incredible skill. The swarm ships crashed into several asteroids, too focused on their prey to navigate properly. Then, Jin changed course toward the ice rings around the gas giant. The Vorathi adapted and followed. The chase continued. "He is playing with them," Vek said slowly. "He is making them angry." "Can one human ship really outrun 300 Vorathi vessels?" his tactical officer asked. "Apparently yes. Look at his flight pattern. He is not using maximum speed. He is staying just ahead of them, keeping them interested. But why?" That was the question everyone asked. Why lead the swarm on a chase? What did it accomplish? Lezer. Why lead the swarm on a phase? Why lead the swarm? Thera, still at her observation post, suddenly understood. She pulled up her earlier scans of the microscopic drones. Then, she overlaid Jin's flight path. They matched. The human was leading the Vorathi directly through every location where he had placed his sensors. He was herding them like animals into a pen. But a pen made of what? Jin's voice came over the general channel. For the first time since arriving, he spoke to everyone. "All ships, all stations, clear the following coordinates immediately." He transmitted a list. Thera checked them against her map and felt her blood chill. Those coordinates covered half the system. The asteroid field, the ice rings, the outer gas clouds. Everywhere the drones had been placed. Everywhere Jin had led the Vorathi. "Evacuate now," Jin said. His voice was no longer calm. It was urgent. "You have 4 minutes." Commander Vek did not question. He ordered his ships to full reverse, pulling back from the outer system. Every vessel that could move did so. Thys watched the display with held breath. The Vorathi swarm was concentrated now. All 300 ships were clustered in a dense formation, chasing the morning dawn through the areas Jin had specified. The human ship suddenly accelerated. Full power, maximum speed. It shot through the swarm, and out the other side, shields blazing from weapons fire but holding strong. Jin cleared the danger zone and stopped. His ship rotated to face the swarm. "What now?" Vothar whispered. Jin transmitted one word: execute. The first explosion came from the asteroid field. Ambassador Thys watched her display as a massive rock suddenly changed course. It had been drifting in a stable orbit for millions of years. Now, it accelerated like a missile, slamming into 3 Vorathi ships. The collision created a chain reaction. Debris from the destroyed ships hit other asteroids, which began to move as well. "What is happening?" Vothar demanded. "The asteroids are moving," the sensor officer said, his voice filled with shock. "Multiple asteroids across the field are adjusting trajectory." Multiple asteroids, Thera understood first. Those microscopic drones. Jin had not just placed sensors. He had placed propulsion units. Tiny engines attached to asteroids throughout the field, too small for the Vorathi to notice. Too distributed for anyone to see the pattern. Until now, 12 more asteroids moved. Each one had been calculated perfectly. They struck the Vorathi swarm from different angles. The swarm tried to scatter, but there was nowhere to go. Everywhere they turned, more asteroids were waiting. "He weaponized the asteroid field," Commander Vek said in amazement. "He turned the entire field into a weapon." But Jin was not finished. The ice rings around the gas giant suddenly erupted. Massive chunks of frozen water and methane broke free from their orbit. They had been carefully selected, positioned. Jin had spent hours calculating exactly which pieces to target. The ice fragments moved into the Vorathi swarm's path. The swarm ships tried to avoid them, but the asteroids were still coming from behind. The Vorathi were trapped between 2 walls of debris, both closing in. He is herding them, Thys said. Just like he herded them through the system. He is pushing them toward something. The display showed where. The outer gas clouds. The area where Jin had placed his highest concentration of drones. The Vorathi swarm had no choice. They accelerated toward the gas clouds, trying to escape the asteroids and ice. 190 ships remained. The rest had been destroyed by the debris field Jin created. Commander Vec checked his sensors. Those are methane clouds. Highly volatile but stable unless ignited. Understanding hit him like a physical blow. Everyone raise shields, he shouted to his fleet. Maximum power to shields now. The Vorathi entered the gas clouds. Their ships spread out, finally finding room to maneuver. Their collective intelligence registered the danger too late. Jin triggered the drones. The methane ignited, not all at once. Jin had planned it in sequence. First, the outer edges of the cloud caught fire, creating walls of flame that prevented escape. Then the inner pockets ignited, one after another, each explosion pushing the Vorathi ships toward the center where the largest concentration of gas waited. The final explosion was visible from the Kelsar homeworld. A miniature sun bloomed in space. The shockwave traveled across the system. Every ship rocked from the impact, even those far from the blast. When the light faded and sensors cleared, 103 Vorathi ships were gone, simply erased from existence. The remaining 87 ships tried to regroup. Their collective intelligence was damaged. Ships that should work as one mind were now confused, scattered. They had never faced anything like this. Jin did not give them time to recover. The morning dawn moved through the debris field. Jin targeted individual ships now. His weapons were not special, standard human plasma cannons, but his aim was perfect. He struck weak points, shield generators, engine cores. Each shot was calculated to cause maximum damage. The Vorathi tried to fight back, but their coordination was broken. They fired at random. They crashed into each other, trying to escape. Their swarm intelligence, which had made them so dangerous, had become a weakness. With the network damaged, they could not function. Commander Vec watched in silence as the human ship destroyed vessel after vessel. Jin moved like a dancer. Every motion was precise, graceful, deadly. Should we assist? His tactical officer asked. Vec shook his head. He does not need our help. Watch and learn. The battle lasted another 20 minutes. By the end, only 12 Vorathi ships remained. They broke formation entirely and fled in different directions. Jin let them go. All vessels. This is Captain Jin, the human's voice came over the general channel. The immediate threat has been eliminated. Remaining Vorathi ships are fleeing the system. I am tracking them to ensure they leave your territory completely. Silence filled every ship and station in the system. No one knew what to say. Finally, Vothar spoke. Captain Jin, how did you do this? Physics and planning, Council Prime. The Vorathi are dangerous because they work as one mind. But that also makes them predictable. They react as a group. If you can control their attention, you can control their position. Once I understood their movement patterns, the rest was mathematics. Mathematics, Thys repeated in a whisper. The words seemed too small for what she had witnessed. You used the system itself as a weapon, Thera said over the channel. The asteroids, the ice, the gas. You turned our entire system into a trap. The components were already here, Jin replied. I simply arranged them properly. The Vorathi's aggression did the rest. They saw a single ship as prey. They could not resist the chase. But the calculations, Vec said. The positioning of those drones. The timing of each explosion. How long did you plan this? I began calculations 30 seconds after receiving your distress call on Earth. The Council provided excellent data. Very thorough. It made planning much easier. 30 seconds. Thys felt her legs weaken. He had conceived this entire plan in 30 seconds, then spent the next hours implementing it. While they had doubted him, while they had called him one useless ship, Captain Jin, Vothar said slowly, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize. We doubted you. We thought humanity had abandoned us. No apology necessary, Council Prime. Your reaction was logical given the circumstances. You saw one ship and assumed it was inadequate. It was more than adequate, Vex said. It was perfect. Jin did not respond to that. Thys watched the morning dawn on her display. The small human ship was already moving to track the fleeing Vorathi, making sure they truly left. Even now, Jin was thorough. Captain, you mentioned you studied Vorathi behavior, Thys said. How much did you know about them before today? There. 30. Take. Though. I wrote my doctoral thesis on swarm intelligence patterns 12 years ago. The Vorathi were one of my case studies. I have followed their activities since then. When your distress call came, Earth's Defense Command asked for volunteers who had relevant expertise. I was the logical choice. A doctoral thesis. This human was not a soldier. He was a scientist. A researcher. And he had destroyed an entire invasion force with nothing but knowledge and planning. Will you remain in our system? Vothar asked. We would welcome your presence. Your protection. I will stay for another day to confirm the Vorathi do not return. After that, I must return to Earth. But I will file a complete report with your military. Everything I did can be replicated by your forces if another swarm appears. You will teach us your methods? Of course. Knowledge should be shared. That is how civilizations survive. Thys looked at her homeworld on the display. The Vorathi landing craft that had been descending were now retreating, fleeing like their parent ships. The surface was safe. 7 billion lives were saved. By one human. One ship. One person who understood that battles were puzzles to be solved, rather than contests of strength. Captain Jin, she said softly, thank you. You saved my world, my people. We will never forget this. You are welcome, Ambassador Thys. I am glad I could help. The communication ended. Thys watched the morning dawn continue its patrol. Such a small ship. Such an ordinary appearance. But inside was a human who had just changed how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. They sent exactly what we needed, Vothar said quietly. Not a fleet, not an army. Just the right person with the right knowledge. That might be more frightening, Vec added. If their scientists can do this, what can their actual warriors accomplish? Thys did not answer. She was thinking about Jin's calm voice, his patience while they doubted him, his willingness to let them question and fear while he worked. Humans measured threats carefully. They responded with precision, not power. That was their strength. And yes, it was frightening, because it meant that when humans decided something needed to be done, they would find a way to do it. No matter the odds, no matter the obstacles, one human had destroyed a swarm that had ended civilizations. The galaxy needed to remember that. The celebration began within hours. Across the Kelsar homeworld, cities lit up with joy. People who had been preparing to die were dancing in the streets. The evacuation transports turned around and began bringing refugees back home. In the council chamber, members from 12 species watched the festivities through their displays. But Ambassador Thys was not celebrating. She was studying, reviewing, trying to understand exactly what Jin had done. She had requested all sensor data from the battle. The files covered her workspace in holographic windows. Numbers, and trajectories, and timing sequences. The more she examined them, the more impossible it all seemed. Are you sleeping at all? Thera asked, entering the chamber. The scientist had traveled from her observation post to council headquarters specifically to discuss the battle. I cannot stop looking at this, Thys admitted. Every time I think I understand, I find another layer of complexity. Thera moved beside her and pulled up her own analysis. The drone placement alone required calculations I cannot even begin to replicate. He had to account for gravitational drift, solar radiation pressure, and electromagnetic interference from the gas giant. Each drone had to be positioned within centimeters of the correct location. How many drones did he use? My best estimate? Somewhere between 8,000 and 12,000. All deployed within 4 hours. This shook her head in wonder. And the asteroid redirections? I have our best mathematicians working on those calculations. They tell me it should take weeks to compute the proper trajectories. Jin did it in real time while flying and fighting. He did not do it in real time, Thera corrected. He did it before the battle even started. Look at this. She pulled up a timeline. Jin requested our gravitational data 14 hours before he moved. That means he calculated which asteroids to use, where to place the propulsion units, and exactly when to trigger them. All before he even started the chase. He knew the Vorathi would follow him. He made them follow him. Look at his flight pattern again. Every shot he fired was designed to make the swarm angry. He destroyed just enough ships to be a threat. He damaged just enough of their network to disrupt them but not scatter them. He kept them focused on him. Thys studied the data. Thera was right. Jin's entire approach had been calculated to produce a specific response. He had manipulated the Vorathi like a musician playing an instrument. This is not how we fight wars, Thys said quietly. No, it is not. Commander Vec arrived at the council chamber an hour later. He looked exhausted but satisfied. His defense fleet had taken no casualties. His homeworld was safe. He owed everything to one human. Ambassador, the captain has completed his patrol. The last Vorathi ship left our territory 30 minutes ago. He is returning to the inner system. Madarathi. Has he said anything about his plans? Only that he will remain for one more day as promised, then depart for Earth. Thys made a decision. I want to meet him. In person. Can we arrange that? Vec nodded. The Morning Dawn is a small ship. It does not have shuttle facilities. But if you are willing to use a transport, I am sure he would welcome the visit. Arrange it. I need to understand this human. 2 hours later, Thys was aboard a small diplomatic shuttle approaching the Morning Dawn. The human ship looked even less impressive up close. It was clean and functional, but there was nothing remarkable about it. No intimidating weapons, no heavy armor, just a standard frigate that could belong to any minor spacefaring race. The docking procedure was smooth. As Thys stepped through the airlock, she expected to see a crew. Engineers. Soldiers. Someone to operate such a vessel. Instead, she found Jin. Alone. Ambassador Thys, he said with a slight bow. It was a human gesture of respect she had learned during her daughter's time on Earth. Welcome aboard. You crew this ship alone? She asked. The Morning Dawn is designed for solo operation. Most human research vessels are. We prefer efficiency over redundancy. 100 stand. Research vessel? This is not a military ship? Jin smiled. It was a gentle expression. The Morning Dawn was built for deep space exploration and scientific study. I made some modifications for this mission, added the weapon systems and shield upgrades. But normally, yes, she is a research vessel. Thys looked around the interior. It was cramped but organized. Every surface had equipment. Computers. Sensors. Analysis. Tools. It looked more like a laboratory than a warship. Would you like tea? Jin asked. I have several varieties, some from Earth, some I collected during my travels. The normalcy of the offer caught her off balance. Yes. Jin led her to a small area that served as both kitchen and dining space. He prepared tea with careful movements. The water heated. The leaves steeped. He poured 2 cups and handed one to Thys. She accepted it and sat at the small table. Jin sat across from her. "You saved my world," Thys said. "You saved 7 billion lives. How do I thank you for that?" "You do not need to thank me. This is what allies do. But the way you did it. The planning. The precision. I have been studying the battle for hours, and I still do not understand half of what you accomplished." Jin sipped his tea. "Would you like me to explain?" "Please." He pulled up a holographic display between them. It showed the Kelsar system. "When your distress call arrived, I immediately analyzed the data you provided. The Vorathi are predictable because they operate as a hive mind. They have preferred attack patterns, preferred formations. Once I identified these patterns, I could calculate where they would be at any given time. But they had never seen your specific tactics before. How could you predict their response? I predicted their category of response, not the exact details. Swarm intelligences always prioritize group cohesion. If you threaten them, they gather. If you flee, they pursue. I used those tendencies against them." Jin expanded the display to show the asteroid field. "Your system has excellent natural resources for what I needed. The asteroids were already on predictable orbits. I just needed to adjust them slightly. The gas clouds were volatile but stable, perfect for a triggered explosion. Even the ice rings provided useful mass for creating obstacles. You saw our system as a collection of tools. I saw it as an environment with variables I could manipulate. That is what I do, Ambassador. I study complex systems and find patterns. Usually, I apply this to stellar formation or planetary evolution. This time, I applied it to combat." Thys shook her head. "You speak about destroying 300 ships like it was a science experiment. It was a science experiment. An applied one, with significant stakes. But the principles remain the same. Observe. Hypothesize. Test. Adjust. And if your hypothesis had been wrong?" Jin met her eyes. "Then I would have died, and your people would have had to find another solution. But I was confident in my calculations. The margin of error was acceptable." "Acceptable," Thys repeated. "You risked your life on acceptable margins. Every action has risk, Ambassador. Flying through space has risk. Staying on a planet has risk. I simply calculated that my risk was worthwhile compared to the potential outcome." Rispermon. 42.5. Monostanes. Thys drank her tea. It was good, calming. She needed that right now. "Why did Earth send you? Why not a fleet?" Jin smiled again. "Because Admiral Chen is very good at matching threats with responses." She reviewed the data about the Vorathi. She concluded that this was a tactical problem, not a firepower problem. So she asked for volunteers who understood swarm intelligence and had experience with environmental combat. There were others who volunteered. 7 others. I was selected because I had the most relevant research experience and because I specifically asked to come. "You wanted to face the Vorathi?" "I wanted to help. And yes, I was curious. The Vorathi are fascinating from a behavioral standpoint. Fighting them provided data I could never get from passive observation." Thera's voice came through Thys' communicator. "Ambassador, I apologize for interrupting, but I have a question for Captain Jin, if he is available." Jin nodded permission. Thys activated the channel. "Go ahead, Thera." "Captain, I have been analyzing your drone network. The positioning precision required is beyond our current technology. How did you achieve it?" "The drones use quantum positioning," Jin explained. "They triangulate their location using entangled particle pairs, accurate to within a millimeter across interplanetary distances. It is relatively new human technology. I can send you the technical specifications If you are interested, you would share that technology? Of course. Why would I not? Thys and Thera exchanged a glance through the display. Most species guarded their military technology carefully. Humans seemed to share it freely. Captain, your people are remarkable, Thys said, but also frightening. If your scientists can do what you did, what are your actual soldiers capable of? Jin considered this. I am not sure I can answer that. I am not a soldier. But I can tell you how humans think about conflict. We do not enjoy war. We do not celebrate destruction. But when something must be done, we find the most efficient path to accomplish it. You make it sound simple. The concept is simple. The execution requires work. I spent 4 hours setting up this battle. I spent 12 years before that studying swarm intelligence. Nothing I did here was instinctive or natural. It was learned, practiced, applied. Could you teach others? I plan to. Commander Vec requested a full briefing on my methods. I will provide that before I leave. Your people can learn everything I did, the tools I used, the calculations I made, the principles behind the strategy. Thys felt something settle in her chest. Relief, maybe, or understanding. You truly see us as allies. Yes. Allies share knowledge. They help each other survive. That is the point of the Galactic Council. Is it not? It is. But I am ashamed to say we doubted you. When you arrived alone, we thought humanity had abandoned us. Jin nodded slowly. I understand why you thought that. From your perspective, one ship seemed inadequate. But from Earth's perspective, sending a fleet would have meant we believed the situation was hopeless. It would have meant we were preparing for evacuation and revenge, not victory. So, sending you meant humanity believed we could win? Exactly. Admiral Chen sent me because she believed I could solve the problem. That confidence was not based on hope. It was based on analysis. She knows my work. She trusts my capabilities. When she says I am enough, she means it. Thys finished her tea and stood. Thank you, Captain Jin, for everything. For saving us. For explaining. For treating us as equals, worthy of your knowledge. You are equals, Jin said simply. We are all just people trying to survive in a complicated universe. Sometimes we need help. Today, you needed mine. Tomorrow, perhaps I will need yours. Thys left the morning dawn with a new understanding. Humanity did not measure strength in numbers. They measured it in capability, knowledge, and precise application of resources. One human was enough, because one human was what the problem required. That was not frightening. It was reassuring, because it meant humanity would always send exactly what was needed. No more, no less. And that precision, that careful consideration, was what made them the best allies anyone could ask for. The briefing room in the Kelsar military headquarters was filled to capacity. Commander Vec had invited every tactical officer, every fleet commander, and every strategic analyst who could attend. They came from 6 different species, all members of the Council's defense forces, all wanting to understand what Jin had done. The human stood at the front of the room with his presentation display active. He looked relaxed, almost casual, like he was teaching a university class rather than explaining how he had single-handedly destroyed an invasion force. Thank you all for coming, Jin began. I know many of you have questions about the battle. I will try to answer them all. Please feel free to interrupt if something is unclear. A Torgath officer raised his hand immediately. Captain Jin, you used environmental warfare. Is this a common human tactic? Graum. It depends on the situation. Humans prefer to use available resources rather than bringing everything we need. If an environment has useful elements, we incorporate them. In this case, the Kelsar system had everything necessary: asteroids for kinetic impacts, gas clouds for explosions, ice for creating obstacles, I simply arranged these elements into an effective trap. But the calculations, another officer said. How did you perform them so quickly? Jin pulled up a series of equations. I used predictive modeling based on swarm behavior patterns. Once I understood how the Vorathi would react to certain stimuli, I could calculate their future positions. This allowed me to pre-position my drones where they would eventually need to be. The equations filled the display. Most of the officers stared at them in confusion. Thera, sitting in the front row, was one of the few who seemed to follow along. You assumed the Vorathi would chase you, she said. What if they had ignored your ship and continued toward the planet? Then I would have used a different strategy. I had 3 backup plans prepared, each based on different Vorathi responses. The chase scenario was simply the most efficient. 3 backup plans, Vec repeated. Prepared in how much time? The primary plan took about 40 minutes to develop. The backup plans took another 30 minutes combined. Most of my preparation time was spent deploying the drones and positioning them correctly. Silence fell across the room. Every officer present had been in tactical planning sessions. They knew how long it took to develop a single operational plan. Days, usually. Sometimes, weeks. This human had created 4 complete strategies in just over an hour. Captain Jin, a Pelthian commander, said carefully. I mean no offense, but are all humans capable of this level of tactical planning? Jin laughed. It was a warm sound. No. Not at all. I have a very specific skill set. Pattern recognition, system analysis, mathematical modeling. These are my strengths, but I am terrible at direct combat. Put me in a dogfight against a skilled pilot, and I would lose badly. Every human has different capabilities. But surely your military trains people in these methods? Of course. But training can only take you so far. Natural aptitude matters. Some humans are brilliant soldiers. Some are brilliant engineers. Some are brilliant diplomats. We try to identify people's strengths and use them appropriately. So Admiral Chen sent you specifically because of your individual abilities? Exactly. She matched the problem to the person. This situation required analysis and planning, so she sent an analyst and planner. If the situation had required different skills, she would have sent someone else. Ambassador Thys stood from where she had been observing. Captain Jin, I want to ask you something more personal. When you arrived and we doubted you, did that anger you? Jin considered the question. No. Your doubt was logical. You were afraid. Your people were dying. Seeing one ship arrive would naturally seem inadequate. I understood your reaction, but you did not explain your plan. You did not reassure us. Why? Because I needed to focus on the work. Explaining would have taken time away from calculations and deployment. Also, I was not certain my plan would succeed until I had finished all the preparations. It would have been wrong to give you false hope. So you let us despair while you worked? I asked you to trust me. That was all I could offer at the time. Trust and my commitment to help. Thys nodded slowly. That trust was difficult to give. I know. But it was necessary. In crisis situations, sometimes you must act on incomplete information. You chose to let me work despite your doubts. That was brave. Vec stood next. Captain, you mentioned you are preparing a full technical report on your methods. When will that be available? I will transmit it before I leave tomorrow. It will include all calculations, all deployment procedures, and all tactical principles I used. Your people will be able to replicate everything I did. Everything? You will hold nothing back? Why would I? You are allies. If another threat appears, you should be able to defend yourselves. Knowledge is only valuable if it is shared. A murmur ran through the room. This level of transparency was uncommon in military matters, but Jin seemed to see nothing unusual about it. The briefing continued for another 2 hours. Jin answered every question with patience and detail. He showed them his drone technology. He explained his calculation methods. He walked them through every decision he had made during the battle. By the end, even the most skeptical officers were impressed, not just by what Jin had accomplished, but by his willingness to teach it. As the room cleared, Thera approached Jin. "Captain, may I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Why did you volunteer for this mission? You could have stayed safe on Earth. Let someone else take the risk." "Well, let someone else take the risk." Jin smiled. "Because I could help. That is reason enough. When you have knowledge that can save lives, it becomes your responsibility to use it. But you risked your own life." "Yes. But consider the alternative. If I had stayed home and the Kelsar people had died, I would have known I could have prevented it. That guilt would have been worse than any physical danger." Thera studied him. "Humans have a strong sense of responsibility. Some of us do. Others do not. We are not all the same. But yes, many humans feel obligated to help when we can. It is part of how we were raised. Part of our culture. Your culture values sacrifice. Not sacrifice exactly. We value contribution. Making things better. Leaving the world improved from how we found it. Sometimes that requires sacrifice. Sometimes it just requires effort." That evening, Ambassador Thys sent a message to the Galactic Council. "All members. Urgent priority. The Kelsar incident has revealed something important about humanity," she wrote. "We have been thinking about them incorrectly. We see their military strength, their technology, their growing influence, and we wonder if they will become a threat. But we are asking the wrong question. Humanity does not think in terms of threats and conquests. They think in terms of problems and solutions. When we faced the Vorathi, we saw an overwhelming enemy. Humanity saw a puzzle to solve. Captain Jin Minho destroyed an invasion force not through superior firepower, but through superior understanding. He used intelligence, patience, and precise application of available resources. This is how humans approach challenges. I recommend the Council adjust our assessment of humanity. They are not a potential threat. They are our most valuable allies. Because when crisis comes, they will send exactly what is needed to solve it. No more, no less. They will send the right person with the right knowledge. And that person will teach us how to solve similar problems in the future. This is not the behavior of conquerors. This is the behavior of partners." The message spread through the Council quickly. Within days, it reached every member species. Opinions about humanity began to shift. The next morning, Jin prepared to depart. His ship was fueled and ready. His technical reports had been transmitted. His mission was complete. Thys came to see him off one final time. "Will you return to the Kelsar system?" she asked. "If you need me, I will come. But I hope you will not need me. I hope my report gives your people the tools to defend themselves. We will study it carefully. Your methods will become part of our military curriculum." Good. That is how knowledge should work. Each generation teaches the next. Each species shares with others. We all become stronger together. Thys extended her hand in the human gesture of farewell. Jin took it gently. "Thank you," she said. "For everything. For saving us. For teaching us. For showing us what humanity truly is. You are welcome. And thank you for trusting me, even when it was difficult." Jin boarded the Morning Dawn. The airlock sealed. The ship undocked and moved away from the station. Thys watched it go. This small vessel that had seemed so inadequate just days ago. Now she understood. The ship was not the weapon. Jin was the weapon. His mind. His knowledge. His ability to see patterns where others saw chaos. And humanity had thousands of people like him. Millions, perhaps. Each with their own specialties. Each capable of incredible things when needed. The Morning Dawn accelerated and jumped to hyperspace. Gone in a flash of light. But the impact of its visit would last forever. Commander Vec joined this at the observation window. My officers are already studying his reports. They say it will take months to fully understand everything he taught us. Well, that is good. We should not understand it quickly. Knowledge that comes easily is often forgotten easily. Do you think he will be remembered? This Captain Jin who saved our world? This smiled. Oh yes, he will be remembered. Not just here, but across the galaxy. The story will spread. The human who came alone, who turned a system into a weapon, who destroyed a swarm with patience and mathematics. What will the story teach? That humanity measures strength differently than we do. That one human with the right knowledge is worth more than 1,000 ships. That when humans say they will help, they mean it. Vec nodded. I hope we never face another crisis like this. But if we do, I know who I want to call. Earth, this agreed. We call Earth, and we trust them to send exactly what we need. Far away, aboard the Morning Dawn, Jin reviewed data from his sensors. Already planning, already analyzing. Because somewhere in the galaxy, someone else would need help. And when they called, another human would answer. Not an army, not a fleet, just the right person, with the right knowledge. Because that was what humanity did. They solved problems, one puzzle at a time.